Hi, my name is Kevin, and I'm with Let Me Tech You. And today I'm going to talk about Inter-VLAN routing. Now, if you're not familiar with this, or you've been or you're looking to get into tech, one of the things you may deal with if you're working on an enterprise network, or small business, or any network that consists of routers and switches, is the ability to route packets across different VLANs, across different networks, things like that. So today I want to talk a little bit about how to configure basically what they call router on a stick configuration, or inter-VLAN routing, which you could do like using like a layer 3 switch or a router. So in today's video, I'm just going to talk about how to configure both of those, show my EV-NG setup and how I do it at home. So this can kind of give you some insight if you're practicing for, say, a CCNA, or do you just want to get some overall networking tips? So I wrote up an article about this on my blog called Let Me Tech You, and essentially we're going to go through that today. Now, I have already configured some of this here on my lab, so this is just to help speed things up a little bit. So basically with a typical network, you're going to have your, a router, or you just may have a layer 3 switch that can do things that a router could do. Essentially, the reason could be maybe limited resources, things like that, while you would maybe have a switch do it and not necessarily a router separated between that switch. So if you go to letmetechyou.com, I'll put this link in the video as well. You will see that this is my lab setup. So I have our 2 routers up at the top here, and 2 switches, and then 4 PCs. And basically what these PCs are going to be are PCs set up in different VLANs. So as you can see here, we got PC 1, 2, 3, and 4. And according to our VLANs, VLAN 50, 60, 75, and 85, I coincided the IP addresses, the third octet, to match that up. So let's go ahead and get into this setup here. So I use a particular technology called EV-NG. Some of you may use GNS3. A lot of this, this isn't particularly meant to be best practice, but basically just to show you a way of how to set this up and test it, whether in your lab or test network. So I'm going to go over to my setup here, and this is just basically running off my home server at home. Again, just to drop this technology here, it's called evng.net. You can download it, install it on a server. I think there's some information on how to go through all that, but it's free. There's some limitations to the free setup, but basically it gives you the ability to do a lot more than what like a packet tracer will let you do. So as you see here, I got my lab set up, and I'm going to go ahead and dial into these. But before we do that, let's go ahead and look at the objectives here. So when you're going through this lab, you're going to basically want to set up everything that's shown here. Now, these first sections here are just kind of like basic, like initial setups that you would do on like your router. So these aren't like necessarily important, but just nice to have. Now I'm going to go ahead into actually configuring the switch. So this part I'm actually going to do because I had to reset these switches up. So basically when I imported my configs over from a new environment, they didn't stick. So we're going to go ahead and go through that here. So I'm actually going to, let's see if I can make this screen see both at the same time. Let's do that. Here. Okay. So now I'm going to go back here. I was going to say it's too small. Okay. So what we're going to have to do, let me just go back and refresh this. All right. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to open this up. Okay, so it does let me show it. Okay, so I'm just going to keep this one bigger over here. So if I go back to this page, and this is my D1 switch. So essentially, I'm going to name it config T, host name, I'm just going to call it D1. Now, what we want to do is we need to set up our VLANs. So I'm just going to go VLAN 50. Just going to go ahead and name this group 50. Now, the VLAN name doesn't necessarily matter in my lab environment, but the name could be something related to that portion of the network. So it could be like production, test, HR, Wi-Fi, whatever it is that VLAN would coincide with. You want to kind of make sure you match that up in a production network. So from here, I'm going to go do VLAN 60. Then I'm going to go ahead and name that group 60. Oop. Name group 60. All right, now we're going to go ahead and exit out here. Now, if I do a show VLAN brief, you see now we have our VLANs. Now we don't have any interfaces in those VLANs. Now we'll get to that here. So basically now we need to assign these assigned interfaces to those VLANs. So basically if we go back to our topology here, we see we have two PCs, interface 3, interface 2. Interface 3, if we go back to our configuration up here at the top, PC1 goes into VLAN 50, PC2 into VLAN 60. So go back to that. So, yep, 3 is going into 50, PC2 into 60. So now we bring this back up here. So basically how to do that is you just go into VLAN 50, or actually, sorry about that. You go interface, let's go back here. Which port was that? Okay, interface gigabit 0/3. And just to bring up the config, just to kind of let you guys see where I'm actually at in the steps here. Mouse a little jumpy here. So I'm actually right here. So you see I'm on the interface. It's already switchboard mode access. So just indicating that it's an access port connected to an end user device. And we're just going to go switchboard access VLAN 50. We're going to do a no shut on that. That's basically going to bring the port up if it's down. And we're going to exit. We're going to go interface gigabit 0/2. Switchport mode access. Switchport access VLAN 60. And then a no shut on that as well. This is probably going to throw a little prompt there. So now if I do a show VLAN brief, we now have those interfaces inside those VLANs now. Now, if I was to bring both of those PCs up based off my network configuration, they shouldn't be able to talk to each other at this step in the process here. So now on the next step here, so it says we want to create virtual interface on a layer 3 switch to create the ability to route the PEGs. Now, so on D1, what we're basically going to do is, in our topology, this switch is actually going to do all of our routing. Basically, when you have a layer 3 switch, it gives you the ability to route packets between different VLANs. You can do other routing and different things like that. So basically, a layer 3 switch has more capabilities than just a regular layer 2 switch that just does packet forwarding. Or switching, I guess you could say. And so instead of having to go up here to the router and do like any, router on a stick type configurations, we'll do that over here and basically show how that's set up on this side. So now we'll go back into our configuration here. Now I know we see IPv6 here. I'm going to leave that step out, maybe for another video, but basically I kind of threw in there a way to kind of do some IPv6 routing as well. So what we're going to do though, since we have a layer 3 switch, what we need is create virtual interfaces for our PCs to know where its default gateway resides for that particular VLAN. So what I'm going to do is go configuration mode, and I'm going to go interface VLAN 50. That creates the interface there. As you can see, it's in a down state. I'm gonna, I can bring it up, no shut. Then it should bring it up here. So as you can see, it came up. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add an IP address to that. So IP address 10.2.50.1 255.255.255.0. Now I can go interface. Actually, well, you can go out of it, but I'll go out of it to make it a lot easier. So interface VLAN 60, no shut. It's gonna go down, and then it's gonna come up, and then we're gonna give it an IP address 10.2.60.1 255.255.255.0, and then exit. Now, if I do a show IP interface brief, it's going to show my VLANs that are up, or my virtual interfaces that are up. Now, if I do a show IP route, you can see the connected and local VLANs that are in our routing table. So now that these know how to route to these particular subnets, basically we have to set up our PCs. Now, if you don't have test PCs, you can, like I said, use this type of EV and G technology to kind of configure how these things can talk to each other. So I'm going to go ahead and open up PC1. And I'm going to bring this to the side here like I did. There. It's too small. Let's make that big again. Refresh. Go back down. Those other labs at the top are there, just some other labs I kind of will do some videos on as well. So the setup's a little different in here. I gotta actually kind of sometimes remember how these commands are. So I think if I do like a show IP, so nothing's set. So basically, go back here. We have PC1 set to be 10.2.50.5 or 50.50. So that's what I'll put on here. So I think the command is IP. I think I can do like a help to see how I configure this thing. Okay, so IP 10.2.50.50 and then /24, and then I put the gateway. So the gateway for this is going to be 10.2.50.1. Okay. And I'm going to do that for the other PC here. So I'm just going to go ahead and do, let's see, show IP, nothing. So IP. And if we go back to our other screen here, if I do a show IP now. So now you see my gateway is 10.2.50.1. IP address for this PC is here. On this side, show, or I'm going to do IP 10.2.60. I think it was 60 as well. Oh, 60.50. Okay, .50 /24 10.2.60.1 for our default gateway. Okay, so now that we have our routing set up on our switches, our PCs are set up with IP addresses, I should be able to ping our virtual interfaces now as well. So, or our default gateway. So if I ping 10.2.60.1, I should get a reply back. And if we do that on the other side, if I ping 10.2.50.1, I get a reply back. Now, if we go into our switch here, if I do a show MAC address table, you see it sees the actual PCs on that interface. So if you see this is 681B, VLAN 60, you see this is 681B for this MAC address. So that's how we know our switch is able to see these devices. We're able to ping them. Now, where the layer 3 routing comes in at on the switches is now I should be able to ping the other switch on the other side. So from 10.2.60.1, I should be able to ping 10.2.50.50. So now we have connectivity to both sides of the network. And basically, if I want to go ahead and, ping 10.50.1, I should also be able to ping that as well. Now, you can control that by, access lists and things like that if you don't want certain parts of that network to talk to another one, but we won't go into that part of this video here. But what I do want to jump into is the other part of this particular lab is maybe you don't have a layer 3 switch. This is just layer 2. We can create our routing up on the router to do our inter-VLAN routing between the different VLANs. So that part there is, let me see if it's here. So this just configures D1. Let's see here. So we got an IP address, so router 1. So this is actually, okay. So what this is doing is actually establishing default routes across our, so basically this lab, I had essentially set it up to be able to talk back and forth between the two networks, but I'll just set it up to just show you how you can talk, complete your, inter-VLAN routing on this side of the network here, using a router and not a switch. So that is R3. So we will actually go to click here to go to part 3 and 4. So D2. So we're going to go ahead and set up this other side real quick. And as you can see here, we're naming our VLANs again, creating those VLANs here, because we do still need the VLANs on the switch. Even though they won't be getting virtual interfaces, which you can add, it's just not going to be used for our routing. We're going to do the routing up on the router side. So let's go ahead and name these real quick, get these set up, only because, like I said, when I moved my configuration over, it did not stick in my new lab. So that's why it's just name switch now. So conf t hostname D2. D2, it could be any host name, should probably more so reflect your environment. I think in my next videos I'll actually make it like switch 1, switch 2, things like that. So we got VLAN 75 and 85. And yep, so conf t, we're already in there. So VLAN 75, I'm going to speed up through this here. Name group 75. VLAN 85, VLAN 999, and this is for the native. We'll just for that. That's going to be for the native VLAN. So name Oh, actually, VLAN 75, name group, VLAN 85, name group. Okay, so name native, I think it's native VLAN. Yep. Alright, gonna exit out of here. Show VLAN brief. So now you can see we have our different VLANs there. Now we have the VLANs configured. Let's move down here. And let's add these, basically add those interfaces in. So we got interface 3 and 2. So let's go back to here. Just want to make sure we keep the lab kind of consistent with the video here. So interface, gigabit. Now you may see, okay, I meant to say that. So you see how it says Ethernet 03 and I'm typing in gigabit. I actually had to change the switches out, and like that's why I was saying when I moved my new lab in configuration, and some of those things got wiped out, so I put the newer switches. So the interfaces are different, but it doesn't change the functionality of what's going on here. Just the speed on that port, it's just going to be less. But for a lab environment, that doesn't really matter here. So interface gigabit 0/3. We're going to do switch port mode access again. Switch port access VLAN 75. We're going to do a no shut on that. That comes up here. Actually going to speed this up. No shut. Switch port access. Ooh. VLAN 85. Let's exit out here. Show IP. Show IP interface brief. Okay. All those are actually already up. So show VLAN brief. Okay, so we got VLAN 75 port 3, VLAN 85 port 2. We're not going to worry about the adding this though, because this switch virtual interface is only really if we're going to manage it, and we don't really need that for this part of the video. So what we do need is to configure a trunk port. So what the trunk port does is it actually tags those VLANs when going across the interface between the router and the switch. And that's needed to be able to allow the router to know what VLANs are coming across to understand how to route between those different VLANs. And that's where VLAN tagging comes in. So, and then what you do is you can also put like a trunk allowed VLAN. So what this essentially does is it lets you control which VLANs can go across that link, so that, you know, a malicious person can't come in and create their own VLAN and then, I mean, I guess if they're already on the network, it doesn't matter at that point. But basically, it just allows you to kind of control your network and only allow and see the VLANs coming across that you want it to. So what we're going to do is we're going to create this on the switch here. So just go, actually, this is going to be interface gigabit 00, even though this says Ethernet 00. Again, that doesn't matter. So interface gigabit 0/0. So we're going to change this to a trunk port. So switch port mode, and then if I do so you can see set trunking mode to trunking unconditionally. What says interface who's trunking cache? Oh, so let me see. Command rejected. With an interface whose trunk encapsulation auto cannot be. Oh, let me see. So switch port, trunk encapsulation, support mode, trunk. There we go. All right. So we're gonna go switch port, trunk, native VLAN 999. This is just kind of like a best practice. You know, they usually say don't use native VLAN 1 because it's used by a lot of all devices that kind of can just plug in and connect to your network. More like a little security blip there. So then we're going to do switch port, trunk, allowed, VLAN 755 or 75, 85, and 999. Oop, what did I miss up there? Let me see. So let's look at the configurations. Switchport trunk allow VLAN. So let's see, 75. 85. Huh. That's odd. It's not letting me put more in there. Maybe no, let me look here. So config if add yeah, so let's just do, for some reason, I don't know, it could be part of my config or the lab or but yeah, typically, I mean, we can look that up. Let's look up that command. So switch, this is actually a good learning lesson. So switch port, trunk, allowed, VLAN. So allow VLAN. Huh. Yeah, I wonder if it's let's try and add. Yeah, maybe I'll try and trick it. Okay, let's do this. So we'll do switchport trunk allowed. Switchport trunk allowed VLAN. Let's do 75. And let's see if we can add. Let's do 85. And let's actually see what's so to see which trunk, so you could do a show interface trunk. Okay, so I guess we'll have to do it that way. So T interface gigabit 0/0 switchpoint trunk allowed VLAN add 999. All right, there we go. That works. That's the way to add them in case, like, so basically if you were to actually try and add VLANs to a trunk port and you don't do the add, or you don't actually add all of them back in, you could wipe out like all of your trunks that are being tagged across. So that's just like a just a safety measure there. And then we want to just make sure it's not shut down, and then exit out. Okay, so we go show VLAN brief. Okay, and then show interface trunk. Okay, so we got our VLANs running. We got our trunking and encapsulation, 802.1q. We got our native VLAN set. Now we have to configure our router. And basically, this is, now that we have this, we're going to move router configuration. Okay, so now our router configuration here. Oh, man. Okay. So this did not move over either. So this is going to be set up really quick. Okay, so now we're going to take this, move it over here. Okay, there we go. Now we basically are going to go into our interface. Now this says 1.1, which we kind of still kept there because like this is the same particular device. So this should be pretty easy here. And actually is the config. Oh, if these R1s weren't there, I could just copy paste it all in there. But let's just blow through this real quick. So basically config T. Just give it a host name real quick. Just call it R3. Interface Ethernet 1/1. No shut. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and create sub interfaces, and these sub interfaces are what's gonna be the default gateways for those different VLANs. So the sub interfaces you want to basically, so let me show here. So it's good to keep the let me show you. So X out of here. So interface Ethernet. So you need to do 1/1 and then dot, and then you're gonna see here, if I can show you, the Ethernet interface number. Let's go ahead and make that 75. This just keeps it in line with the VLAN number that you're utilizing on the switch side. We're going to go ahead and encapsulation .1Q, and this is the VLAN ID. Now this must be the VLAN number. Now the interface number doesn't have to be the same, but it's best to keep them the same for just documentation purposes and easy readability. I'm going to call that 75 there. IP address is going to be 10.3.75.1, 255.255.255.0, and then no shut on that. That's it. So basically, we're going to skip this IPv6 part here, link local address and things like that. And let's just get into creating the other one. So basically, you can literally just press the up arrow, change that to 85, change, let's see, so IP address, right, encapsulation, change that to 85, IP address, so change that to 85 here, and then no shut. Let's do the same thing for 999. For this one, we're just going to do a no shut. Okay, now for the actual interface itself, let's just give this an IP address of, well, no, actually this is for the 1.0. So this would be for this 1.0 here. So basically, I'm not going to do the whole thing of being able to route across. You would just basically create some static routes here and whatnot, or you can do like a routing protocol like OSPF, EIG, or P to learn the routes, but keep it simple here. And so now that we have that, now that we have those configured, we need our PCs to get the correct IP addresses assigned to them. So if we see here, PC3 is 75.50, 85.50. So let me see. So show IP, no IP, so IP 10. Mine's a little boggled here. So is it 10.3.75.50 /24 10.3.75.1. Just double check that just to make sure. 75.1. Yep. Okay. Where are we at here? Okay, so there. PC3. Then let's go to PC4. Make sure it has no IP address. IP address 10.3.85. Let me make sure I didn't do 85 there. Okay. 85.50 /24 255.255. no, 10.3.85.1. Now that these are set, I should be able to ping my default gateway, 10.3.75.1, and I should be able to ping the other side, 85.1. And basically vice versa for the other one. So I should be able to ping 10.75 or 10.3.75.50. So now basically what we've done today is configured routing between our different VLANs using here on this side a layer 3 switch. So basically, and then on this side, we use the actual router to create that interface for the default gateway for these VLANs. We just created our VLANs here, and we're sending traffic up through this trunk port, and the VLANs are getting tagged, and this is identifying which subinterface to send them to, and then sending it to the correct network. Now, like I said, you can get into actually controlling access to which sides of the network you want to be able to get to, blocking, all that type of stuff. But this is a great, step that, you kind of, do in, I guess a lot of CCNA level courses. So, I hope you enjoyed the video today. Again, you can always reach out. Well, I'm not going to say reach out, but see new labs on my blog, letmetechyou.com. I'll continue to post videos on these different lab configurations. If you would like help setting up your EV and G environment or getting some of the images and things like that configured, feel free to reach out. Let me know. I can get you some assistance on what you may need to get some of these labs set up and going. Again, thanks for tuning in. Hope to see you next time. Comment on any of my videos if you've seen any wrong or misconfigured steps. I'd love to fix those and get those back out to you. Thanks. Bye.